we've reached the end of our rifles in the Ardennes campaign game. Time for some final thoughts. And I think really it probably goes without saying after 8 games that I do enjoy this game quite a lot. It's a tremendous amount of fun. It's obviously very abstracted in the way the game works. So it's not not a strict simulation game. It's a game about World War II that can be played as a game. And I think one of the things that I do love so much about this game is that each one of these missions in this book, there's all eight that we played through in the campaign, they don't have to be played as a campaign, they can be played individually, and that's how I've always played them before. And there's so much variety in them, in addition to the variety within the missions themselves in terms of what you do and the different events that happen. You can also play as the Germans. You don't have to be the Americans. You play as the Germans. You can even play as the Russians, because this is not a, strictly speaking, Ardennes campaign game. It is a game set in the war in Europe. It's a lot of fun. I hope that's come across. It has been a lot of fun. I have enjoyed it. In terms of the campaign, though, so this review is going to focus on the campaign more than the individual missions themselves. So, as a campaign, would I play it again? Possibly. I don't know. There's a few things with it that are somewhat less appealing than playing the games individually, and the main one is that at the end of the campaign, after you've created your squad and you've taken them all the way through those missions, all the triumphs and tribulations that you faced, there's nothing at the end to tell you how well you've done. Unless I've really misread something in the rules, there's no way of knowing how you have scored, how you might achieve a better result next time, which is something of an anticlimax, to be honest, because after investing 8 hours or so playing the games, you want a sense of how you've done, which there are other games in this series, and I do hope that those games would sort that particular issue out, even if it's just a table of good, bad, indifferent. It's something that would tell you how well you've done. The other issue that I have, and this was actually somebody mentioned this in the comments or something along the lines of, if you arm yourself with the better weapons at the start, you have a far higher chance of success, which kind of makes sense. But in the campaign, you don't ever really progress to those better weapons unless you choose them right at the beginning. I chose the squad based on the, I'm not sure where it is at the moment, but there's an example squad page in the rulebook, and I just chose that squad, that makeup, and normally when you play a single game, you might take a mortar, you might take the heavy machine guns, a couple of extra submachine guns, that kind of thing, and you play the campaign, and you would have a reasonable chance of success. As the campaign progressed, it was clear that just having the basic units was extremely difficult to win, and obviously if I had taken more of those better weapons right at the very beginning, I would have had a better chance of success at the end. And that decision right at the beginning of the game or the campaign, you don't really realise how important that decision is right the way through when you play the campaign. There were skills and things like that which were useful, but knowing at the beginning that your riflemen were going to stay your riflemen, that would have been useful to know at the beginning. And maybe I just didn't realise, that's possibly me, maybe I just didn't realise, but knowing at the beginning that if you'd taken those heavier weapons, you would have a much better chance. That would really make for a different campaign, probably an easier campaign, if we're honest. And the third thing, really, and this is something that obviously has been present, I have noticed it before playing just the individual games on their own, there are a lot of typos and ambiguities in the rules, which, even though there is an active FAQ forum over on BGG and there is a living rule set, I think it's on Tiny Battle website, there's a lot of typos and things, and it gets a bit frustrating when you're playing multiple games to keep having to go back and hunt through the forums for the answers to some of the rules. But I don't want this to sound like a really negative final thoughts, because obviously I've been through all 8 games. I've had a really good fun playing it. It has been a really, really enjoyable way to highlight this game and to show you some of the things in this game rather than just playing the first mission. It's a game that I will definitely come back to over and over again, but more likely as an individual mission, as a way of filling an hour of an evening rather than a full campaign. With all that said, then, I hope the series has given you a good idea of how Rifles in the Ardennes works, both as single missions and as a campaign, and I hope it's helped you decide whether this game is for you. If you're not a fan of the European World War II theme, you can also get the sequel, Rifles in the Pacific, which is set during the Pacific War, and there's also a Napoleonic War, Napoleonic era third entry in the series as well. I think that one's Rifles in the Peninsula, I think. Those 2 games I haven't played myself, those I can't comment on them, but they are definitely going to be games that I will look at very strongly and very closely in the future, because it's been fun. It has been fun. May have moaned a little bit about some of the things in the campaign, but it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it too. With that said, that's enough from me for this final thoughts. I will hopefully see you next time.